Cuba! It's me, Elian Habanero, episode 31 of The W.I.L.L.I.W show, which of course stands for Wrestling is Life. Life is Wrestling. This is part 4 of my mini-series on living and dealing with the one and only horrible Ike the Crippler Shaw. So if you watch part 1, 2, and 3, basically I met Ike, found out what kind of a carny he was. The second episode was wrestling my first match on the first show Ike ran. And then in the third episode, how he told me I couldn't wrestle anymore until I bought steroids for him. That's basically where we're at. So, it's not that I had that much against steroids, it's just I sure as heck wasn't going to buy any steroids from him. So then, he called this meeting. He got us all in the gym, and he sat in his chair, and he said, "We're going public. We're going to make this a publicly traded company. Who wants to buy shares?" Well, I told Ike before when the steroids came after he scammed me for the insurance. I don't have any money left. I'm still paying back my mom. So I was not able to buy shares. And he would go through the line. And you, and you, and you, and you. And sometimes he'd screw up and he'd start over and he'd go over again. And he usually ended up peeing his pants in these meetings and smoking a bunch of cigarettes. And they were the most ridiculous meetings. There's some real funny ones I'll tell in some other parts. But anyway, he wanted people to buy shares. Unfortunately, Ike, I was not able to invest. I should have. I'd probably be a millionaire by now. And anyway, so he said I couldn't wrestle if I didn't buy the steroids from him. Well, I kept training really hard, and Sid Summers really pushed for me and said, "Come on, give him a chance, Ike. He doesn't have any money, but he trains hard. He does everything well. He listens well." So there was another show coming up in Cambridge under the ACW at the Steelworkers Hall. Now, one of the trainees that started training with me was Sandy. Now, Sandy wrestled as Sandy Davis, but there was no other girls there for her to wrestle. And she sold like 50 tickets to the show. Like, her whole family and friends, everybody was coming to see her. And then, so they decided that it would be me versus Sandy with Jesse Jones involved. And he would be like, he was supposed to wrestle Sandy, but then he would force me, his little slave, to do it for him. And then, like, he would be like the heel on the outside, and he'd be really involved too, so that's how it was set to go down. Well, about a week before the show, Ike decided, "No, you guys are not doing the match." And Sid was like, and whoever else was involved was like, "Are you crazy? Half the people that are coming to the show are just coming to see her. They're going to be very disappointed." Well, Ike said, "Well, I'm going to have to see the match." So me and Sandy had to do the match in front of Ike, and then I don't even think he watched. He said he was watching on the camera in his office, but I highly doubt he was. So anyway, we did the match. Sid Summers co-signed it, gave it the approval, and we worked our way back on the card. Apparently it was good enough. He just really did not want to see me wrestle. Even though he had promised me all this stuff about how I was going to get to be a wrestler, and I had listened to everything, I couldn't afford to buy. And I don't even think they were real steroids. So anyway, during this time, also, I had a job at Cambridge Towel. Well, one day, Ike forced me to call in sick. He needed me to do something. We were going to, like, the storage locker or something, paying my dues. But I said, "Ike, I need this job." He's like, "Just call in sick one day, it will be fine." And he just kept convincing me, and I didn't want to get... On the contract we signed, it said no refunds. So once you were sent out of the school, you couldn't come back. But you could stay there as long as you could manage. And I didn't want to get sent home. Like, I needed to stay there. So he had that hanging over my head. So reluctantly, I called in sick. Well, the temp agency informed me that I was no longer needed because I missed one day. I remember it was a Friday. So I was looking for more work. So he got a bunch of us this job at Canpar, which is like kind of like a FedEx thing. And like we would go at like 4 in the morning, and the one guy would drive us, and there was about 4 or 5 of us. And like my job was to take the packages and put them down the line as fast as they could. Well, something else happened a couple weeks later, and I was doing really good at this job too. And then Ike needed the vehicle for some reason, so he didn't want to drive us in. So I guess I found this out after, but it kind of went like this. So a couple weeks later, I needed work again. So I phoned the temp agency, and they're like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. Why?" They said, "Well, what about your leg?" And I said, "What?" They said, Ike or Joe or whatever called in and saying you guys couldn't come to work because you were in a serious car accident and you broke your leg and almost went through the windshield. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, seriously? He could have just said we couldn't have made it for the one day, but he had to make this big, huge, crazy lie. And then, so now they're, like, confused. Like, I'm like, so I had to tell them, I said, that was not anything to do with me. That was out of my hands. No, I was not in a car accident. No, I did not break my leg. I had no idea this person was doing this for me. I just want to deal with myself. Like, I just want to speak on behalf of myself from now on. So I ended up getting another job through them at Windsor Wafer, the wafer factory. Okay, so that's basically what's going on. So we're getting ready. We did this show. It was pretty decent, I guess, for my second match. And there was starting to be a lot of talent that would come through there. Like Geza would come by to train because he lived locally, and I learned a lot of him. I was terrified of Geza, just like his reputation, but he was so nice to me. If I hung around the ring, he would let me go in there and he would do some moves, like practice his Geza bomb on me, and he was really nice even though I was so intimidated by him. And Waldo would come in there once in a while, and Waldo was great. He specialized in backs, and I have a natural like hunchback, and he would give me some great advice and help me, and he loved talking about that. And then, so, I'm working at Windsor Wafer, we do this show, and I go home for the first Christmas, and I felt like a superstar. I'd only wrestled 2 matches, but my small hometown paper did like this article on me in the front of the sports page, and I just felt like, even though Ike was such a shyster, like maybe this is actually gonna work out somehow. Of course, he only ever ran 2 shows after that, but that's a whole different story. So I came back from Christmas, and I was glad I didn't have to spend it there at the school. And the first day I got back is when I found out he never hid it. He would take these morphine patches, and there was like a square patch that you would put rubbing alcohol and then you stick it on and it would soak in through your pores. And he would say that he needed it because his knees were so bad, bro. His knees were so bad. So the doctor, he was supposed to take 1 a day. Now more than that could like kill an elephant basically, but Ike's immunity to this, and eventually he was having 2 patches at the same time, and then 3. And I remember the first day I came back from visiting my family on Christmas, he had 4 patches on, and all of a sudden, he starts getting like delusional, and he doesn't know where he's at, and he's like, I'm ODing! Rip them off! Rip the patches off! So a couple of the students had to come and rip these patches off him. Oh man, it was ridiculous. So at this point, we had had enough, and a group of us, me, Lars Phoenix, Sandy, and Russ, and Jesse, we decided we want the school for training, but we can't live with Ike. So we decided we are going to go and get our own house in Cambridge, and then we're going to still wrestle there. That is part 4 of Ike the Crippler Shaw, some of my interactions with him. I'm going to keep it going. There's probably like 3 or 4 more parts to it. This is the W.I.L.L.I.W Show, episode 31. Remember, like or you get a leg drop. Comment or you get a clothesline. Subscribe or you get a suplex. I'm your host. I love wrestling. Cuba!